On this episode, Charles Chadwick, author of Chadwick's College Checklist. On today's Open Highway.
The Open Highway with Eric Erickson.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Open Highway. I'm your host, Eric Erickson. Thank you. I hope you're all having a great day as you traverse down the road of life. How's that sound? Because we are talking about that today, because we are talking about college and we are talking about student debt. And my guest today is Charles Chadwick. He is the author of Chadwick's College Checklist and Chadwick's Cultivated Circumstances, and he helps students who are heading off to school, students who are in school, dealing with how to pay for school, how to get ready to go off to college, whether they want to go to a trade school or a university. We're going to talk all about that. So this is an interesting subject to me. I was lucky enough to be able to pay off my student loans. It took me a long time, but I pinched a few pennies and I got them paid off. But there's a lot of student debt out there. I did a little research as I got ready for my interview, and some of the numbers are they're a little scary. There's $1.75 trillion in total student loan debt out there. That's a lot of money. And we all know about recently Biden did the student loan forgiveness. Charles and I talk about it a little bit about some politicians are fighting it, saying they're going to take it to court. Do they then what? Make students give the money back or go back into debt? It's still kind of up in the air. I have a few friends who've gotten forgiveness letters. I also know some people who've been approached by scams who have said they will help them if they just give them all their Social Security information. So it's still kind of in a little flux, but the average student has $29,000 in student debt, and 55% of students at public universities or schools are carrying loans, 57% at private schools. It's pretty close. But then you start to look at the numbers about the repayment statuses out there. There is $112 billion. 5.1 million borrowers are in default on their student loans. Nearly $1 trillion, $968 billion are in forbearance. There's $113 billion worth of deferred loans out there. And it just, $118 billion of them are in school, $1 billion worth. That's 6.4 million students. It's a massive industry. And one of the things that Charles and I talk about is how the student loan industry is profiting off this. And it's private loans, it's the government. There's a lot to it, and we're going to dive into it after this. This is a company I am not just happy but proud to bring you. Black Helmet Apparel creates high-quality clothing, accessories, and equipment for firefighters, police officers, military personnel, and those who support them. Founded by a third-generation firefighter, all the designs are hand-drawn and unique. No clip art, no cheesy sayings, just images that relay the fearless but frightening side of a firefighter's job. Apparel, gear bags, bunker gear, and a full line of accessories, plus unique and amazing challenge coins. And check out their pink line collection that raises money for breast cancer awareness. BlackHelmetApparel.com. Join their mailing list for 10% off your first order. The link is in the show notes, BlackHelmetApparel.com, where frightening meets fearless. What is messed up with school? I'll just get right to it. I remember when I was in school, and it was so much about, you know what? If you don't go to college, your life is over. If you don't go to college, you're never going to do anything with yourself. And before we had this interview, I dug in and I was looking at some stats, and it's if I'm an elevator tech, which is a decent job, man, that's a $78,000 a year starting wage. It's a construction manager makes almost $100,000 a year. Now, albeit it depends on what city you live in, and you got to work and you got to work your way up in the structure and everything. But still, why is it so adamant that that's the only path? You and I have talked about this before, so it's like I'm not shocking or anything, but talk to me.
Man, being a part of the United States education system, I graduated in high school in 2003, but along the way, like what you're saying, there, there, logically, there is an option. To be successful in life, you could be an entrepreneur, you can join the military, maybe go to college or learn a trade. But when I went through the school system, it was college is the only way. It is the holy grail if you want to find success. That's what era I went into. Now that I graduated in 2003, almost 20 years ago, I have real life experience.
Mhm.
And what was pushed in college, the message in high school about college, is not necessarily true. It's a half truth.
Do you think a lot of that comes from, and this, I don't mean to sound conspiratorial with this, but every once in a while I do. Do you think any of it has to do with the college loans and the banking system and, that whole mess that you're shaking your head,
Yeah,
just up
yeah.
and down.
Yes, because when you look at it, man, in year 2020, the number one asset for our US government was student loans. And I
That's
mean,
crazy.
yeah, so when you look at that, and also I like your podcast, so I'm gonna just go ahead and get into it. It's no secret, a young person, you're gonna be working. I mean, for I won't say a good proportion of your life, but if you graduate from college, let's say 23, 24, you might even go for a master's. But once you hit that age, you're going to be working the next 20, 30 years to make a living.
Yeah.
So I feel like the people who finance these loans, they know that. And it was genius for them to put young people in debt because logically, they're an asset. As long as they're alive, you have the future possibility of receiving a payment. And we all know economics, your income is generated kind of like futuristically. So they know you will be working for a good while. So why not put a young person in debt, and then
Yeah.
say it's for the good cause?
Yeah, and that doesn't even take into effect, I'm sorry, that doesn't even take into consideration um doctors, dentists,
Yep.
medical. I mean, because that you're talking even hundreds, millions of dollars of more. That I heard a story the other day about some dentist who had hundreds of thousands of dollars of payments due, and like a thriving practice, and they couldn't even make ends meet. And it's like, we're all told, like, be a doctor or marry a doctor, do one of these things and
Yep.
you'll be fine. It's not exactly true at all.
No, it's not. And it's just an interesting subject, man. Again, I started out in the trade industry only because I was born into it. My dad had a plumbing business.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't care if I wanted to learn it or not. I can one sense say when I was younger, I was forced to go. But now that I'm older, it's the best thing that happened to me because I got a lifetime earning skill. Pandemic or not, gas prices high, people are always going to call a plumber.
Yeah.
So when we look at the career choices, I think it's a passion thing. A lot of people chose passion first. And I can be honest with you, I did not choose what I was passionate at. I use only logic. I said, I'm going to have to be working for a while. I went to college. I cut my college costs by 40%. I said, I'm going to limit these loans as the best I could. And learning that trade kept me afloat. And now I'm speaking out about it. And this is what I went to school for. I majored in, I have associates in electronic servicing, and I have a bachelor's in mass media communication. So it's kind of interesting because people are so filled with passion at first when they
Mm-hmm.
go to college. I think you don't really think about how much money you're taking out as far as loans because you feel that I'm going to make even more. And a good point that I can try to introduce to people, I remember a guy graduated with me and I said, hey, how much student debt do you have? Because I just wanted to compare. He said, I got $100,000 in debt, and my mouth dropped. I said, well, man, I only took out like 18,000 for a bachelor's, and I cut my costs at that. He said, it don't even matter, man. I'm going to get a job with the FBI. I'm going to start out 100,000, so I'll pay this off even quicker. The one thing I think people don't look at, if you never worked a job, I started out at fast food. I helped my dad in plumbing. So I had some work experience before college, and that introduced me to taxes. So even the guy that I graduated with college with, he said, I'm going to make 100,000. Sure, that's the gross, but after the taxes, the FICA, Social Security, whatever state you work in,
Yeah.
dental, insurance, you might drop from 100,000 to 70,000. So even if that was the case, you're missing $30,000 from that 100,000 that you're going to pay back the student loans, and then you have the apartment, a rental car payment. I think financial literacy is a real deal.
Yeah.
I think if a person's never worked a job before college, unless your parents teach you, here's the key point. They don't teach this in school. Even for me, I learned through reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki at a later age to really understand finances. So I think that's some of it before
Yeah.
people go off to college. If you've never worked a job, and it hurts, but I enjoy paying taxes now. But that first check, you add all your ducks up, and then you see, well, why did they take this and why did they take that? It kind of puts a better perspective on money and finances.
Yeah. If like when I was in high school back in the Stone Age, we had a business class that it was an elective, but all it was like, here's how to open a checking account. We didn't learn how to budget or anything. It was like, here's how a contract works. Make sure, really basic things. But if they had sat down and worked with us a little more and said, here's the taxes, here's how they work, here's what a freaking 401k is. Like I think it was in my 30s before I even understood what that is. But I also work for a lot of freelance, so they don't really dangle them in front of me. But it took me a long time to learn that stuff, like real world skills.
Yep.
Remember I told you I looked up like statistics before we jumped on the interview, and I read this one that blew my mind. 81% of high school dropouts said that if they had real world skills that they were learning in high school, they would have stayed in high school. And I know that that's not just business. I mean, like we had shop and we had electronics, and that was kind of it. But if you had other classes, maybe beginning to medical, nursing, things like that are offered at trade school. My sister, she got into culinary, and the only reason she did that is she was lucky enough to go to a school that did culinary stuff with a local trade school. So in high school, she actually learned how to cook, and she went and worked at a restaurant and got credit for it. Why isn't that everywhere?
And a real life skill tied to the trade industry, which used to be in high schools, and they took it away. And I love what you say. Believe it or not, when I graduated from high school, I didn't even want to walk across the stage. I grew up on a farm in North Carolina, so my family was huge. So since 1990, I have always went to a college or high school graduation, and I was bored. I told my parents as well, said, I do not want to go to school. And I said, if you don't believe me, come in the classroom and see I'm not learning anything. Now, learning how to read, write, and the basic math, addition, subtract, multiplication, division, I salute that. I will take that. But after that, I wish there was more business classes on real life work. And if it was, that's what I would have done. And also teachers, they push college. You'll get a scholarship. If those scholarships were equally given to all the students, then we really wouldn't have this debt mess. But you're financing your loan. And I feel like if the teachers would tell both sides of it, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I only heard, hey, scholarships, grants, there's so much money for college, blah, blah, blah. I didn't hear one time a student say about the loan, or if they did speak about it, was, oh, you're investing in your future. So when we're in school, they say education is priceless. And I find the irony in it now, because you are literally seeing these balances that education was priceless. To me, for a bachelor's degree, no matter what I'm doing, I would say with inflation and stuff now, maybe 30, 40,000, but there's no reason I couldn't see 80,000 for a bachelor's degree. And like you say, dentist, doctor. So education is priceless. So I guess kids really ran up the tab thinking about the future. Oh, I'm gonna get this money. And now we're in an inflation. Not to say that the economy will remain the same, but this is where smart people should be thinking logically too.
And you just put, there's one word you used, and I want to point that out, because this is something that that I don't think we talk about anywhere. You use the word kids. These are 17-year-old, sometimes 18-year-old kids who are signing on the dotted line for hundreds of thousands of dollars for the rest of their life.
Yep.
I mean, they're not even allowed to drink yet. They're not allowed. They're not even allowed to sign contracts.
Yep.
Until you're 18, but you're already signing up for hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans. Because in this country, unlike other countries, like I know Germany, I have a couple friends. I have one of my good friends, his wife's from Germany. We talk about this sometimes. And in Germany, trade schools are held at a higher level. You're looked at, you have a skill. And also in Europe, you can take a year off and it's not looked at as a bad thing. Go figure out what you want to do. You're 17 years old, your parents are telling you to do this, and your friends are telling you to do this, and suddenly you got to pick a major, and you wake up one day, and you're like, oh my God, I owe $250,000, and I hate natural history. Or,
yeah. And I can expand on that too, and this might be something good for you. Everything you do is good for your listeners, but I am an American. I'm not bragging about it. I'm not sad about it, but I have traveled to those foreign countries, and I've been to Europe. I've enjoyed it. The mentality of the people was very different from the United States. And here's a key point that some people might not know. I feel like in our culture as an American, we're like thoroughbred horses. You're taught at 18, you're getting out of this house, you better know what you want to do. But in some of those other countries, it's not illegal if you're not in college and you still live with your parents. And that's a key thing that I noticed too. I feel like sometimes people rush into college because they honestly just don't know what they want to do. And college, in my opinion, sometimes it buys you some time. You get a dorm, you get a meal plan, you get some time to figure out what you want to do, like you say, for the rest of your life. And I noticed the pressure wasn't as much as it was in America once I start traveling internationally. People were more laid back. They did what they wanted to do, and it was like an organic discovery versus like college. I feel like we bust the students up and say, go to college and everything will work out, At 18, American culture versus other cultures, it's cool to live with your parents, still till you figure out what you want. But I know in American culture, it's like your parents is telling you when you turn 18, that's it. You're getting up out of this house, blah, blah, blah.
I'm turning your room into a den. Get out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about your books. Because
Okay.
I really want to talk about those. So let's start with checklist. So talk to me about Chadwick's College Checklist. What is this and why is it important? Because I know it is.
Oh, yeah. It's a book that I wrote during the pandemic. Again, looking at the news stories. Once I saw people lose jobs and, it bothered me where I kept hearing about student loan debt. What were some of the balances? I graduated in 2010 with my bachelor's, and I was like, how in the world is stuff getting 100, 200,000? I know if you go for your master's, your doctor, dentist, but for a regular bachelor's or history majors costing 80,000, it made me think. And while I was overseas, I ended up documenting what my college cost and how I ended up cutting my expenses. So had I not cut my expenses, my bachelor's would have cost me 35,000. But I ended up cutting it by 40% and dropped it down to like 18,000.
Wow.
And all it was, it didn't require money. All it did was require me to use a skill set that I learned before college, and that was working with my dad, seeing how to get something you want for cheaper price. So again, my philosophy is just because somebody sticks a sheet of paper in front of you and say this degree is going to cost you 50,000. You mean to tell me a person couldn't go down the itemized list and see where they can cut costs and get what they want for cheaper? So what I end up doing, I talk about the community college. That's 50% of the work there. I started out at community college, got the associates. A good proportion of those credits transferred to the university. So I saved thousands there. The first 2 years, I didn't have a meal plan or room and board. So if people would look at the community college sometimes, you're going to be able to cut that cost. And that's what that checklist is. I give you step by step how I cut costs. And even something as simple as the meal plan. I did not religiously eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, both semesters. Those are prepaid meals. So if I missed a meal or I didn't go, then I paid for something that didn't benefit me. And that's what I teach in the book. Instead of going with the meal plan, if it's possible, give your child cash, learn to cook for yourself, and you're going to save on that. Because here's the scenario that I give in my book. Let's say somebody took out a loan to finance the meal plan. You graduate, you're no longer on college, but that money that you borrow, you still have to pay it back. I could understand paying for the meal plan while you're on college, but some people are taking out a loan for that proportion.
Yeah.
When you graduate, you're not eating at the cafeteria, but you sure are paying that money back for each meal purchase plus interest.
I had a friend in college, and again, I went to college in the 90s, and the economy was a lot different in the 90s. It was booming.
Sure.
I mean, this was like Clinton days. It was like
computers. Yep.
Yeah, it was right as the dot-com was booming. There was a lot of cash, so there was a lot of really good interest rates. And I had a friend who he somehow he got his college paid for. I don't know if he got scholarships, but he didn't have to come up with a lot of cash. So what he did was he got grants and loans, and you don't pay interest until you get out of college, or some of them are grants. He took that money. He didn't need it, but he took it and he put it into CDs and he put it into mutual funds. He invested it. And then the day he graduated, when he started to have to pay it, he took it out and he paid it off, and he had the interest on it. And it was a huge amount, but he was already making money.
Exactly.
I'm sure it's illegal now, or there's some reason you can't do it. But I was like, damn, that's smart. That's the way to do it.
And that's the desire that I have for the next generation. I'm in my late 30s, almost closer to 40, and I'm thinking, this world sometimes, or at least American culture sometimes, make it feel that you need money to do the things you need to do. Sometimes, yes, I'm not going to lie, that's what we need in the physical plane. But ideas is what can get you what you want, maybe without money. And that's what the book is about.
Yeah.
I give another example. Sometimes being a faculty member of a college, your child could go free or at a very discounted price. So if a single mother, or if I was a single father, I would purposely, if I had to be a custodian at a college, to put my 18-year-old or whoever through, that's what I would do. And you're cutting costs. In the book, I talk about the difference. I don't teach people to save money. What I teach people to do is cut costs. And the best example I give in the book is, for example, you buy a washing machine at Lowe's, but it said it retails for $400, but it says it's on sale for $300. A lot of people would say, I saved $100, but you didn't. Unless you could put that physical $100 in your checking account, you didn't save anything, but what you did was cut your costs. And that's what that book is about, is teaching people how to cut costs. And a lot of the things in the book doesn't even require money. It just requires a person to think how to cut costs. And of course, if you went to college, you know about the RA thing. I stayed on campus free, and all I had to do was volunteer one weekend out the month. And maybe before the fall semester start, I had to come 2 weeks early, set up the dorm rooms, clean them, do inventory before the new students arrived. I didn't pay a dime for my room while I was in college because I came an RA. And that's what I key points in the book. I'm showing people little secrets, how you can cut costs.
How to find those little ways.
Yep.
What do you suggest to people? How early should they start looking into these things? Like, it's not something, hey, I'm a senior now, I better figure it out. I'm guessing it's a little bit earlier in the process.
Well, I would say,
without being too early. I mean, you don't want to give a little kid a 7 or 8 anxiety, because they're already they got enough going on with school shootings and everything else. We don't want to need that.
And that's crazy too, man. From the time I went to, that would never cross my mind. But in today's world, you do have to prepare for that. But I would say this, man. There's a lot of opportunities in high school. You can graduate early. And see, I didn't graduate early, but I took less classes my last semester in high school. But had they had the community college program, where when you're done, you could actually graduate in high school with an associate's degree. So what I tell people, the quicker you could take any college course, it's just going to save you money later on. And who knows, right now as they speak, they might be adding some more core classes to the freshman class of colleges since people are getting smarter now and doing the community college program while they're in high school.
So let me be a little controversial here because I don't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people tell me that I look at the world differently because I don't have kids, and it's absolutely true. But do you, what about, I think sometimes there are people who say, you know what, it's high school, just enjoy it. You shouldn't be stressed about this. Just, these are the best. This is the thing. Like, I hated this when people were like, high school are the best days of your life. And I literally at the time, I'm like, if this is as good as it gets, I'm done. I'm done. So do we need to not say, just enjoy everything? Do students need to take a little bit more responsibility for their future? Or parents maybe say, look, maybe it's time to get a summer job, maybe a job after school, or look into what you're doing. Are we coddling the kids a little bit too much? Especially nowadays? Did I get you?
Yeah, no, because I was on the other side. I grew up in the South, North Carolina, and you was taught you're going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to provide, as long as I provide food, water, and shelter, there is nothing else that you need. And it sounds harsh at first, but now that I'm older, I am so thankful that my dad, I don't want to say was hard on me, but it took his real love to push me into the trade. Saturday mornings, me and my brother, we weren't allowed to watch cartoons. And I know that might sound like a felony right now, but now that I'm older, and it's not good to compare ourselves, but just as I look around at my peers, a lot of people don't have a work ethic. And when I say that, I'm not saying to work for money, but just whatever your goals are in life, I'm passionate to get it. I know that it's on me whether something happens or not. And I feel like this, the quicker a person understand finances, the less time you'll be out here in la la land, switching jobs, switching college majors. And again, what is being taught in high school? And I think too, just my dad teaching me that I'm going to be responsible for me and that it's on you whether something happens or not. It really helped me out. So I would
Yeah.
have to say yes. With everything in life is a balance, and I feel like it's a little bit unbalanced now. People chase their goals and passion, but what about the reality? Before you get to point Z, there is a, B, and C point. So yes, I think the quicker a student can work, it's going to give you experience, and experience is priceless.
Mm.
Me working at fast food jobs, I learned how to take somebody talking junk to me. If I'm behind a counter, my order's wrong. You're stupid, blah, blah, blah. I would take it with a smile and say, you know what? The customer's always right. How can I make this right for you, ma'am? I'm working on it. And it really taught me how to deal with people. And that's priceless. You can't learn that by just getting a degree and then going and starting a job. You got to get the experience how to
Yeah.
deal with people. So I would say, yeah,
Yeah.
I think you can have fun, but also understand how things work. And when you do, it causes you to, it has a more influence on your decision making. Because even with the debt thing, if I knew about debt by my dad talking about don't ever buy a new car. As soon as it leave the lot, it lose X amount of percent. A house is an investment. So when I was in college, I was responsible for my own debt. Therefore, there was an urgency, there was a push, a consciousness for me to cut my college costs. And again, if I didn't, I would have paid 35,000, but I ended up paying 18,000 for a bachelor's, which I paid off no problem.
If you are a coffee drinker like me, you know there's good coffee and great coffee. And then there's amazing coffee. And at the top is Kona coffee. But did you know the Kona blends you see in stores can actually contain as little as 10% Kona coffee? So go right to the source. Koa Plantation coffee has been named the best coffee in the world by Forbes magazine. And you can get it now by visiting koacoffee.com. Don't stand for anything other than the best. Koa Plantation Coffee. Save more when you get their triple pack. koacoffee.com. The link is in the show notes. What do you I'm going to shift gears a little bit. What was your reaction to the Biden waiving all that student debt? What was your takeaway from that? How did you feel? Especially as somebody who worked their ass off and didn't walk away with a lot of debt. How did you feel?
Honestly, I didn't feel anything, believe it or not, far as
Okay.
feeling. Okay, but my
Well, there's
logic,
two questions. There's like personally, did you, because there were a lot of people that were like, hey, wait a second. I paid off my debt. I worked really hard and I paid it off. But it doesn't bother me because I'm like, I did my job and that was a while ago. But there's some people who are like, that's not fair. What about you should take out credit card debt? If you're gonna do this for the students and you got to get rid of credit card debt. And I'm like, nah, that's getting education and getting falling into the whole student thing versus buying that brand new stereo on credit. I think we're talking about two different things.
yeah, but I guess that's the real question here because I've been in those deep debates. You know, an 18-year-old man could go to another country in a war and and kill another man, but he's not mature enough to come back home and have a beer. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's exactly what we are going to see. If you start with this, what's next? Credit cards. I want free house and I want this. But me personally, at this point in my life and my journey of life, I really figured it out. It don't matter because those who know how to work, those who are confident and have the experiences, you're going to do what you have to do. So imagine if a young person now is getting, I don't want to say a handout, but it's not a they're getting something for free that you
Mm-hmm.
did not work for. What kind of taste did that leave in a person's mouth, you know? Far as doing that now at that age, what are they going? Some people, of course, it's going to help them, and other people's like, well, if I got this free, I want B, C, D, E, F,
Yeah.
G free. So I wasn't mad about it. And here's the thing: self-esteem. I'm happy I paid back my loans. I'm happy I bought a house and I paid it off. If I take out a loan right now, I'm confident enough to take out 250,000 or a million because I have that confidence. But if you took out a loan and you can't pay it back, what does that does to the eternal self or our self-esteem? Because that is what you learn through life, how to be confident, just as something simple for people to understand to dunk a basketball. I played basketball. I wasn't that good. I was like a Dennis Rodman, but I'll never forget the first time I dunked. I had to work hard for that. I was lifting weights, doing different things. But imagine if they made a shoe that elevates you off of pressure. It's not the same when you achieve things with your blood and sweat and your own willpower. And we all need help. There's no doubt about it. Everybody needs help to being self-reliant. But when you know you can do something and there's nothing that can stop you in your way, to me, you're a powerful person.
Mm.
And also, too, in America, what is $40,000-$50,000 in Africa or the Philippines? That's a lot of money. And what I find interesting is that foreigners come to the United States, and if they would have got those loans, they would have paid them back, in my opinion, earlier because they're hungry. They know the opportunities we have in America. And my perspective have changed because I travel internationally. I can't say America's the greatest country in the world until I travel to every country in the world. But what I can say is that there are opportunities here in this country that do not exist in other countries.
Mm. Do you think it's entitlement?
I,
Is there an American sense of entitlement when it comes to certain things?
I don't like the word entitlement,
Okay.
but only because until a
Gimme,
person
gimme, 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 gimme.
yeah, but culturally speaking, that's what this culture has done. And I didn't realize it till I went overseas and I looked back at America and I saw people starving in the streets in other country where
Mm.
there is no government assistance. The police could have been corrupt. Not to say, and police are corrupt in America as well, But when I saw the opportunities, I was like, man, I don't blame what my belief system was while living in America. But now that I've seen some other countries, my mind is so open now to know what exists and what doesn't. I don't blame Americans for feeling and I don't like the word entitlement, but I would say maybe the culture, because this is all we know. Now, if the news that come out every day would say this is what happened in America, but the law in this country, if you steal, you get your hand chopped off. That's pretty harsh compared to you're supposed to get justice. Everybody is, innocent until proven guilty. You go through a trial, you do all this. I would say culturally speaking, that's how we are. And
But
until
don't
people,
we have that though. Like, I mean, I don't think we can have this conversation without getting into race and culture and social
Mhm.
division, because there is a treatment of the different race, societal classes, financial, you name
Yeah,
it. Like every if okay, let's be honest. Let's
yeah.
totally honest. You're black, I'm white. You and I
Mhm.
walk into a bank, 9 times out of 10, they're going to treat us differently. You walk in a three-piece suit, I walk in flip-flops, I'm still going to get treated differently. Am I going to get the loan? Who knows? When they look at other things, they will factor it in. But we have to take that into consideration in this country as well. And so we hear stories like you're saying, like if you get your hand chopped off or whatever, it does affect what we expect out of the system. You know, it's not this it's not the perfect system that we think it is by any
It,
means.
it, exactly, and that's why the word entitlement, that's a tough one for me because I'm trying to be very open, but I would say culturally speaking, in this culture here in the United States, man,
Yeah.
and I'm not being funny, I'm not being mean, but I'm stating facts here. A poor person here in the United States, they could be on the side of the road, they got the sign up, in their back pocket, they have an iPhone or Android. In the third world countries that I've seen with my own eyes, if a poor person is on that street, there is no cell phone. There
Mm-hmm.
is they're not, I don't want to say people are faking it, but that's again culturally speaking, a poor person in the United States, they're gonna have some government assistance, they're gonna have a cell phone.
Because we see it as a
Oh,
right, we see it as a necessity. Like there are programs that can give cell phones to the needy, which is not a bad thing, because if you need to communicate, you need help. I get that, but for that shifts that line. Like, what is a necessity? What is that's man, that's a whole other show. We're supposed to be talking about education, but I mean, that's
but
that's
okay,
what the
but
show's about. This is what
yeah,
happens.
but this is the education that I think is missed in high school. Like you said, I really wish they had some real life classes about life. You know, when
Yeah.
you take out this loan and the pandemic, I don't like mention, but I think a lot of people didn't factor that in. And what the way I looked at it, if you are a true business owner, you got to factor in rainy days. And I think now, even my perspective has changed with the pandemic. I mean, that stopped the world. But when you're dealing with money, and you're taking out a loan, you got to factor in a lot of gray areas. So I think even with the students with the loan, if that pandemic didn't show you, and also I think people will be a lot more, do more research on the major, because that's what allowed me to write the book. I said, why am I still working? It's because I'm in construction, and whether or not there's a pandemic, gas prices, people are always going to need repairs or new buildings going up. And it's kind of like job security
Mm,
versus in some degrees is only a possibility and maybe not so much job security. And I
yeah.
think it's now a reality. You do not need college to be successful. And honestly, with what I know now, if I would have known what I know now, I think I still might have went to college, because that's still part of a journey, not for economics, but for my own personal journey. You know, get away from family, be around some people my own age, keep those creative ideas going, you know.
I think part of it is we have this, and I think it goes back to like the 50s and the 60s,
Yep.
maybe even, post-war. We have this stigma about working with your hands. We have unless you're like an artist or a crafts, like you make, you're some like famous craftsman who builds cabinets or something. We have this stigma about working with your hands. And the really ironic part of it is, and again, I was looking into it, some of these trade jobs, and it's like nurses are in there, and computer programmers are counted in these trade jobs, and they're not. It's not about just laying pipe or
Yep.
fixing these things, but the funny, really ironic part of it is you are being paid to use your hands, because 99% of the jobs you're clicking away on a keyboard
Yep.
anyway. I mean, you're doing exactly the same thing as some of these trade jobs. So if we can
Exactly.
switch that mindset and look at somebody, I mean, you brought it up too. It's like teachers, we pay them for shit, I'll say it. And
Yeah.
we it's so skewed on like what a job should pay and what it doesn't pay. But then we look at other jobs and say, well, I wouldn't want to do that. But you look closer and you're like, well, with union and pensions, and you're making, $250,000 a year, and you're building a circuit board or something.
Yep.
it's we have these preconceived ideas. What's it going to take to like shake that up? What's it going to take for us to suddenly kind of like go, maybe the world isn't what I think it is. Maybe the pandemic did that.
Yep. And that's the key thing. Facts. And I thought about it. What set me free from limited thinking was getting facts. And I don't know if anybody heard of Dr. Thomas Sowell. I found him during the pandemic. And when I heard the facts versus somebody feelings, it set me free from my limited thinking. And that's the thing. Like when you're talking about facts,
Mm-hmm.
right now, this is a hardcore fact, and I don't think people know it. I love what you're talking about, the trades being in the IT field. Right now, we can see it. Cyber attacks, people hacking pipelines. That is going to be the new trade field for the young people. Is
Oh yeah,
computers.
yeah. I had
And
Eric Jetmer on the show, and we had a whole show about talking about the huge issues that are coming and how they need more people, and it's like they need young people who get it,
yep,
who are into all that, and there's not enough people, so they
no,
have to rely on the military. They have to rely on feds
yep,
because there's nobody else out there to do it.
exactly. And in my second book, Chadwick Cultivated Circumstances, I dedicate towards the conclusion. I talk about the IT, and here's the holy grail of it. CompTIA, which does the certifications, there is no age requirement. There's a recommendation that to be certified, you take the test, and if you pass, you can be certified. It's recommended. So a recommendation doesn't mean it's the gospel, but they recommend you be 13. Can you imagine if a 13-year-old gets security plus, he get networking, he gets all this stuff. By high school, he can come out making 100,000 without the debt. And that could bankrupt the colleges. And I was talking to my friend who contracts like I do. He said, man, if I would have known this, I would have got those computer certifications and not went to college. So that's the thing. What I talk about in my second book, to get experience in something is priceless. It doesn't cost. I could work with a computer guy now. And matter of fact, because my electronic service and associate's degree was attained before college,
Mm-hmm.
they paired me with the college IT department when I was going for my bachelor. So that was my work study. I got to fix computers. I got to get even more experience, in the binary code zeros and one. So if a young person now can see it and look at just supply and demand, everything involves a computer now. And also on the hands part, I'll give you a scenario. A small high school, 1,000 students graduating, 700 going to college, 200 are going in the military, and 100 have no idea what they want to do.
Mm.
If that 100 would just go into the trade industry, whether it's electrical, electrician, plumber, HVAC, they are going to get that experience. And guess what's going to happen? The 700 that went to college are going to graduate, and guess what they're going to be needing? Some housing. Or for the people probably listen, this next generation don't want to own houses. Fine, they'll live in an apartment complex or condos. It's still tied to the trade industry.
Yeah.
The military person might have learned the skill as well, but guess what? When they get out or they retire, they're still going to need some housing. So if those 100 students were to go in the trade, they're going to be at the supply and demand. There's so much demand for housing from the college graduates, the military people, but the trade is going to be tied to that housing. So if those students would get in the trade, I would say they're going to be rich. And here's my thing. And I had it backwards. When my dad was teaching me plumbing, I didn't like the hard work, like you said, carrying the pipes, crawling under houses, seeing snakes under there, crawling in, sewage. But if I was to really take a tally of my high school class, if I would have stuck full time in it, you're going to make more money because it's tied to the housing, in my opinion. I don't have any data, but if you just break it down, what's tied to the housing industry? And there's a shortage of young people now because the baby boomers are getting ready to retire. And guess what? Supply and demand. Demand for building. We're overpopulated. I don't know. But you're going to still need housing. So if a young person getting it now, I would say by 30, they might be finished because they're going to be able to charge and bill everybody.
There's
So
going to be a boom.
yeah,
There's going to be in the next 5 years. There's going to be a
yeah,
housing boom.
Yep.
But so I'm going to tell you a quick story from my high school, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this because this is kind of the other side of it.
Hmm.
So because you mentioned like 1,000 students, so like my high school, I think we had like 3,000 students in the entire
Wow.
high school. Like my graduating class was like 800, something like that. There's a farm school up in rural Washington.
Okay.
Um, so many of the students came from farms that the school finally said, you know what? Let's get rid of these requirements for science and math in order to graduate because these kids don't need it. They need to be able to, we're going to give them ag credit for working on the farm. So they would take off in the afternoon and the school would give them credit for those classes because they were working on the farm. So I had a friend who wanted to go to Harvard. She could not take the right classes at her own high school in order to just apply because they had taken them away. You didn't have to take foreign language to graduate. Many high schools, you have to take at
Yep.
least 2 years, or,
2 4.
that got taken away. No math requirement to graduate, no science requirement to graduate. They butchered the whole system. So many of these students suddenly were faced with, I can't take the classes that I need because I do want to go to college. So now we have the other side of it where schools are gutting some of these, and and these kids aren't even allowed to make the choice. So she eventually had to go to another high school. She would go to our high school for the classes, and then she would take half of her day at the neighboring high school, and then she had to take she was taking like 9 classes a day. She would go to a before school class and after school, and she got into Harvard, bless her. But you have schools that are gutting the program. So we don't, what's going on here? We don't have life skills. I mean, you can carry around a sack of flour or an egg for 2 weeks to make sure you don't knock up your girlfriend. Or you can, maybe learn how to balance your checkbook or at least know how to go get one. But you can't, now we're not requiring the math classes, we're not requiring science classes, we're not requiring these other things. So it's like we're gutting the education system. And everybody's getting hurt, whether you want to go to trade school, when you go to
Yeah.
college, anything.
But I'm looking at it as a positive because now it sucks. If I lived in the middle of nowhere, if nobody had transportation, I would say it sucks. But I went through that system, man, and I would say it needs to be revamped. And like you're saying, I believe it should be a choice. There was so many other kids, and even me. I said, I don't care about college. I don't care about reading a paragraph. What was the author's main point of view? And I write it down and all
Mm.
that. But if there was a class on business, how to own your own business, I would have took that above anything else. But
You didn't care how to diagram a sentence.
no, because my natural gift, which I knew earlier, is talking. I don't know
Mm.
if the listeners can feel the vibration, whatever energy, but I love to talk. And you need both. But I feel like we're at a point in life now where people are really finding their purpose of, if you don't need this, but they're telling you you do, it kind of sucks because I'm learning that time is currency. And like what you're saying, in high school, oh, take it easy. If somebody knew who they were supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing, I think it holds a person back, to
Mm.
waste time. And if a young person can figure out time early, I think that even the debt thing would not have existed because you're saying, hey, I'm taking out this extra money because I know later on, and notice how I'm saying later on, I'm going to make X, Y, Z money, and we're really seeing it now, man.
Yeah.
Um, that is not the case.
I
I
it's
would
I
say the high school should be revamped, and to be fair, it should be both ways. If you want to go to college, provide the classes, but not everybody's going to do well in college.
Yeah.
So provide the trades or provide some life skills. And I know the Florida governor. I don't get into politics, but was it DeSantis? Is that how you say his name? I saw they added a financial class to graduate. I said, salute it. We should make it United States wise to give people something. We're not going to learn it all, but out of high school, like you said, the life skill, how to pay your rent. If you take out a mortgage, by the time you pay it off, you're going to pay even double
Yeah.
than whatever you took. Those little classes help.
There
They,
should be like, I know this isn't nationwide, but like I grew up in Washington and we were required to take a Washington State history class before you graduated. I know other states have there should be a financial literacy class. Just because I learned about the Hudson Bay Company or the Oregon Trail or
yeah,
whatever I learned about, I should have also learned like what compound interest was, what a balloon payment was. Like I should have learned that before I graduated. I should have cared.
Yeah, and it kind of, the more I listen to people discussions, I'm working now. I've worked during the pandemic in the construction sector, and I pause sometimes to listen, and everybody is singing this same tune now. A good proportion of people are coming to the realization that they weren't given per se the right information to I don't want to say success, because sometimes your failures is what help you get to success, but people weren't getting the right information to push them
Yeah.
to make better choices per
But
se.
part of that is recognize, it's like anything, don't be a victim. Like
Yeah.
if you understand you didn't get it, there's a point where you can go, okay, that sucks, but you have to go out. Not only do you have to go out and fix your situation the best you can, or try and find a way, or get help, or whatever you have to do, but you also have to make sure, and this is where you come in,
Yep.
you have to make sure the next generation doesn't make that same mistake, because that's our job, is to pass it down to the next generation, so they don't, it's what, their life is supposed to be easier than ours. Their
Yeah.
life is supposed to be better, and that's our
Exactly.
job.
And that's what I love. I know that, and I like to rhyme a lot. So they say the student loan was a disaster, but I'm saying it's not a disaster, because if you're struggling to make your payments, guess what? You can become a carpenter and pick up a hammer. If you need money to make your payments, and here's my thing, go into the trade. And if you stay 4 years and you walk away, I'm pretty sure you're going to walk away with a lifetime
Mhm.
earning skill. But when you walk away from college for 4 years, you could get a lifetime worth of debt and bills. So that's the key thing that I want people to see. Just on your journey, nobody's going to figure it out always. But if you're struggling to make your payments and you need money, get into the trade industry. It'll help you along the way, not just making money, but you're going to be a homeowner. You might rent a condo. You'll save some money by being able to fix things for yourself. And that's the bigger pros than I see cons with a
Mhm.
college student learning a trade. So my thing, have a duality mentality for the economy, and you could
Yeah.
be universal. Get the degree and trades. And when a pandemic happened, guess what? People are going to still call a plumber. We got global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it. The earth's getting hotter for whatever reason. A HVAC technician, he's always going to be needing to replace ACs. People come up with $10,000 to replace a unit, even out of blue. If your unit goes out, whether you want to or not, I'm sure you're going to get a credit card. You're going to go in your savings and put a brand new unit if you live in a hot state. And
Oh
that's where
yeah.
the trade industry provide those lifetime earning skills.
Yeah. If you need some money, learn HVAC and move to Arizona. Like,
Yep.
just like, there you go. So what's next? So you've got the two books.
Mm-hmm.
We got chadswicksexperiences.com. The link's in the show notes for reduce college debt. You are on Instagram. Dude, you're everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
because I just want the next generation to know. I mean, the news is reporting it, but if I've done it, and I don't mind sharing this with you, I'm African American and I've done it. That should show that America has changed. Not to say that we're perfect and all this, but it changed for me because
mhm,
there was no crisis, because I understand finances before I went to college, and that's
yeah.
just the fact of the matter.
So what's next on deck for you? What's your next project? Another book?
Yeah, I'm thinking about writing another book, and
Okay.
the book would be talking about, how to manage your time. I work jobs, but
Hmm.
I'm a 40-hour guy now. A lot of people say, oh, I want the overtime, I want the overtime. But now that I understand that time is currency, and we've seen this during the pandemic, a lot of people, if you add it up, this 40-hour work week, it might not even be enough to pay your bills. So I just want to teach people to be creative, use
And
your
where,
job.
tell people where you live though, because you live in a very expensive place. At least I've heard that you do.
Yeah, currently I'm staying in Hawaii, and again, I'm a contractor, and a lot of the jobs that I've worked have been in the trade industry, construction/security. So check
Mm.
this out for your listeners. I have not paid a real bill since 2015 because of my skill. When I go to these places, they provide housing, company cars. So I'm trade skill pay the bills. So it is
Hmm.
expensive, but I haven't paid a dime since I've been out here from my house. And
That's
the company
incredible.
allots you the money. So, and another thing, if
Yeah.
you get into the trade industry and you learn what you're supposed to learn, you can go worldwide. So the trade industry has allowed me to travel internationally. But had I just tried to use my degree in what I majored in, I don't know if I would have left unless it was nonprofit. So if
There
you want to travel, get into the trade industry. And people don't know this. You can make tax-free money if you stay. There's something called the 330 rule. So your trades can pay you and make tax-free money in a foreign country.
there is something I some people don't agree with me, but I want to see if you agree with me. There is something so cool about somebody looking at you and saying, you know what? You are valuable enough. Your skills are valuable enough. What you bring to the table, I am going to put you on an airplane and
Yep.
fly you to another country and put you up in a house or what. Like, I don't know. There's just something that that does to your self-esteem because I think too often, we feel like we're a cog in the machine and it's like we're replaceable. And there's just something so cool about knowing that you have a skill that somebody is willing to outlay extra for you to go do your job or to do something. I just think it's goes a long way to
It
self-esteem.
exactly. And I don't know if you use this, but for my book covers and stuff like that, I
Hmm.
use Fiverr. They were created by a woman in Macedonia and an African guy. I never met them. I paid it on Fiverr and it saved costs. So here's the another thing. Me traveling internationally, I saw something that's always been a truth, but I never knew it till I went internationally. Economics has always been worldwide. With this internet and what we're talking about, having a skill set, people are going to be willing to pay whoever can do the job the best and the best price. So when we look at America, we could be closed. It's time to take these horse blinders off. And you got to think economics is internationally. And that's the thing. The skill set is real. I've traveled to countries, and if there was no border like in United States and not a long wait to get in, I would say many foreigners would come to America and run a business in 2 years and outwork some Americans because they're that hungry in those
Yeah.
countries.
It's actually funny that you bring up Fiverr because they're one of our new promotional partners.
Oh, they are.
They
Wow.
actually, there will be a commercial at the end of this show for Fiverr because, so I'll do a little spiel here as long as you brought it up that
Yeah.
if you're looking for
Yep.
somebody, the links in the show notes, head over to Fiverr and I use it. I've actually worked on there as well. There's some amazing things on there. I've done voiceover things and other things. Yeah. So click the notes, make sure we get our promotional cut because we do make a little money if you click on it and go there. But Fiverr is an
Yeah.
amazing resource, both
You can.
sides,
Yep.
earn and spend.
Yep. And the
So
quality of the work and the timing was faster and cheaper than what I could get in United States, to be
yeah,
honest. For
yeah,
graphic artists, video work is
it's
interesting.
leveled the playing field in a lot of ways. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. All right, my friend, let's wrap this up. Here's your chance to pimp it all out. This is your chance to talk about everything you got. You got the books, you got the place. Tell me what you got. Where am I sending people?
Okay. If you want to go to the website and I explain everything, some data, about the trade industry and also how I cut my college costs. When you go to the website, there's free video tips up there as well where I'm showing you, and it's just not my word. In the book, I've documented what my financial cost was. It's an actual college document, and I show every chapter how I broke things down. But you can find me on my website, www.chadwicksexperiences.com. That's CHADWICK and then experience with a S, chadwickexperiences.com. And if you want to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at, you're going to love this, Reduce College Debt. Follow me at Reduce College Debt. And I believe my books will help people reduce their college debt. I always give a promotion monthly. If you post a book on Instagram and tag me, I give $100 away a month for the checklist. You can use it for a college application or anything, but I am a man on a mission. I don't want to see the next generation drown in debt.
I love it. All the links are in the show notes, so go to the show notes and you can click right through to your website and all of that. This has been fun. I really like. I wanted to have this discussion for a long time. We
Yeah,
met
we
at
did.
a publicity event, and we hit it off. We were just chatting about this. We're like, oh, this is gonna be fun, and it was. It was really
Yeah.
cool. So I appreciate you spending some time with me, man. This has been great. So
Same here, man, because again, this message is a conversation that people are having in locker rooms and break rooms, but I want to bring it to America because it's true, man. We need everybody, women, minorities, the young people, the trade industry. And also, too, I know we're cutting for time, but as the environment change, the young people are smart, these computers and all that, but
mhm.
learn the fundamentals of these trades because it still involves engineering and constructing something. So if the earth is getting hotter, we need maybe some new material. And we're going to need the young people to understand the fundamentals of trades and incorporate some of their degree and creative thinking. I think we need everything. Degrees and trades is what I want the next generation to be about, both, not just one or the other.
Yeah, it's always fundamentals. Doesn't matter if it's trade school or sports.
Oh,
It
yeah.
always comes back to that. If you are looking for help on a project, there is no better place to go than FIVERR. You'll find countless professionals experienced in pretty much every industry you can imagine. Designers, public relations experts, writers, artists, programmers, legal consultants, and that's just the start. Click on the link in the show notes and head on over to FIVERR to get the right person to do the work you need. FIVERR. What service are you looking for today? Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed the show. Help us spread the word by subscribing and leaving a review. If you want to support us even more, you can find a link to our Patreon account in the show notes. And if you're one of our diehard fans, head on over to thevikingdogstore.com where you can find official Open Highway merchandise to show your support to the entire world. But most of all, thanks for listening.
For the highways of America, which for so many years were an assortment of as many designs and pavements as there were states, are now becoming one big road that can take you anywhere faster, safer, and more directly than ever before. What is this big road? Where is it going? How much has been built? How much is yet to come? These are questions we ask. Certainly traveling the entire system would be a memorable experience, but few of us have the time for such a trip.
The Open Highway is a production of Viking Dog LLC, all rights reserved, 2022. The Open Highway and Viking Dog may receive compensation from promoted products and affiliate links or promo codes featured on the show, in the show notes, or related platform materials. Neither guests or Viking Dog are ever compensated for any appearance on the program.